All right, welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith.
Travis Hoig.
Brian Shesko.
Gentlemen, here in the United States of America, we experienced something yesterday that most nations get to experience in this world. It's an election, and this is not a political podcast, so we're not going to go into it. But for the most part, whether you liked what happened or whether you disliked what happened, it was a huge movement yesterday in the United States. What did that one beauty pageant call the United States of America? You know what I'm talking about. It's one of the most epic. Everyone was awkward for her. Mm-hmm. Everyone felt awkward for her because she got super nervous and couldn't answer a simple question. Anyways, I always like to try to say the States of the United of America, or she said something like that. Anyways, big day. That wasn't going to stop us from recording. We had said that, hey, our text thread between the three of us is often broken. Not broken, but like it's just sometimes we have nice quips at each other or we like to keep our communication somewhat not clear. And for whatever reason, Travis, you and I thought that we were recording last night. And for whatever reason, Brian didn't get the memo.
He did not.
And or didn't see it. I, in the past, have fallen into this. So I am not the pot calling the kettle black. I am the pot calling.
I'm always here.
Yes, I guess.
Sitting right here in front of this microphone.
I guess we're all kettles
ready
and pots.
to go.
I was going to say.
I guess we're all kettles and pots.
You're the pot calling the pot.
Pot. That's correct.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
yeah,
so
that's really deep.
Travis, we came down and we kind of got all set up, ready to record.
Waiting for Brian. We call Brian.
No answer. So then it was like we were kind of taking odds on.
Even like it's kind of late.
Is he coming here like really kind of being late?
No, it's fine. It's fine. He'll be here. Sure, he'll be.
Yeah.
Wait, he didn't confirm in the text that he was going to be here.
And then I said, no.
Let me call him again.
He threw out a nice little quip. He saw the text. I'm not going to mention.
You did a good one.
Not going to mention the quip, but it was a nice little quip.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not family friendly.
No, it's
nothing about Brian in text is family friendly. I think it's important that we acknowledge that, just in case his mother listens.
He's like, wait a minute, what is this? Anyways, so it always has it oozes with class, but there's usually a hidden message in there. So
oozes with crass.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Anyways, bottom line is we did finally get a hold of Brian, and Brian's like, look,
there was like kids screaming in the background.
I know.
I thought you were like
We had a thing.
But you were at a thing, which was fine. And credit to you, you're like, look, I'll leave right now. Like it sounded like you wanted to get out of there.
Actually, it did.
And
Dana would have lost her crap.
I had been trying, but I could not.
So. Yeah. Anyway, so it all worked out fine. We are here now recording after a
near miss,
a massive day. Whatever side you were on of your politics. Again, we're not going to get into that. But it was a large day of either like or dislike.
America
but we're
happened.
here tonight, and this also gave us an extra day to
watch
have
Arsenal
Champions
lose.
League. Unfortunately, yes.
That's great.
We also saw City lose yesterday, which
we did
because of Election Day. I forgot at all until I got here
yesterday
that any games went on, and I saw Liverpool flat rolled, City
Madrid lost.
So this is not a Champions League podcast, but I say all that to say
one of those.
it
I'm make a note of that.
bring into light things that could matter in what we do, Brian.
I'll get Scott back.
Which is talk Premier League fantasy football.
The Fantasy Premier League podcast.
That's correct.
Of States of
America. There we go. I love it. Brian, what are we going to do?
Well, game week 10 is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are about to go into game week 11.
Wow.
Hard to
quarter of the season
grow up so
is
fast.
gone for sure.
Yeah, it's weirder to think that the NFL football season is halfway.
Yeah.
Right.
Already.
In the Premier League
Have
is
the Cowboys won yet?
Wow, this is not an NFL podcast.
They've won
can-
games. They've got
They're
one.
3-5.
Yeah, they've won a few. It doesn't matter. The point is that season.
Because I remember saying
it's
the video of Dak Prescott saying
Man, we suck.
3-5
Oh, that
is
one.
not good.
Yeah.
And he used other words.
Yeah, basically the season is rolling along. It's game week 11. We're almost into another international break. So I think the part of what we wanted to do is kind of, I feel like looking at the table right now, it's got a bit of a surprising table.
It is.
Probably
Yeah.
not a predicted table from a lot of pundits, and definitely not a lot of, I don't
For
think,
sure.
the way we would have expected it to go. So we're going to run through the table and just kind of pull some talking points out of there. And then, of course, we got some players we need to talk about, some big performances, some underwhelming performances that might dictate what moves you might make, what you might regret having already made.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people make
Oh,
early
I like
transfers.
that. Yes.
But all of that to say, there's plenty to talk about, and let's get into it.
All right. Well, let's do it.
Ba-dum, bam.
All right. Before we jump in to nice sound effect there, throwback.
It's not on the soundboard because we couldn't rip it off. But so
Not yet.
you got it. We'll get
League
there.
Diana's actually asked me for that rip, and
I wish we had
I
it so
still
I could actually
don't
use
have
it.
it, League Diana.
I want
sorry.
the bongos.
I
The
still
bongos
have to go
are too
collect
silly.
my computer.
I'd
that
use
my
them if I could
son
find
spilled
them.
water on from the computer place. So again, League Diane, I have not forgotten that you've asked me for that.
It wasn't
rip.
a creative choice. It was
might
it was
not
a
be
technical
valuable
necessity.
by the time you finally get it a year later. Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah, and that's if it's still there. So there is that. I just don't know yet. No, I just wanted to discuss the fantasy week. I had all green arrows. After the week before, I was like right on average and had all red arrows.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I had a great week, but then again, when you look at our league table, I scored a 55. The average was what, 34?
34, I think is right. Yeah.
So that's significantly above average, but it was a low scoring on average fantasy week, mainly because Holland didn't give you anything. And if you captained him, which I don't own him now, like that happened last week. It was Salah and Morgan Rogers. I know Holland and Morgan Rogers out, Salah and Chris Wood in.
Okay.
Nice.
I took a hit for that and felt good about it. And I think
I
for
bet
this
you
week, it worked out. Captain Holland, he returned with a 9. Chris Wood scored, although Morgan Rogers did as well.
Yeah.
Although I'm guessing, Brian, that was his one shot on target. As now he's been to bring in Salah, I didn't want to get rid of Palmer, Mbuemo, or Saka. So then it was Semenyo or Rogers, and I just thought
Which either
I
would have
just
been
liked
fine.
Semenyo
Yeah.
better, and it did pay off this week as he gave me a 10. So anyways, overall for a fantasy week, it was fine. It felt fine, although when I look and see it's 39. 39 was the average, so I'm 14 points above average, but 55 on a 39-week average, at the end of the day is fine. Brian, you did pretty good this week too, I think.
That was bad.
No, I'm sorry, 43, forgive me.
Yeah, that was bad. No, you're dead wrong. I was awful.
Sorry. There was not a shot across the bow.
Sure seems
Anyway,
like
so
that.
it was just an odd scoring fantasy week. It felt like if you had one guy return, you're like, oh my gosh, thank heavens. And once again, it kind of came down to if you had Salah and captained him, you had a good week. And it feels like that happens.
My week would have been significantly better if the one move that I had made, if I had just not made it. Because my one move was Solanke out, Raul Jimenez in.
That's brutal. And then Solanke has a late
Yeah.
race.
Has the career day. Two goals,
Yeah.
a brace and an assist
That's
for
why-
16.
When you sent me that text, Brian sent me a text, Solanke, are you kidding me? And I wasn't watching the game at the moment. And so then I'm like, oh, man, what? Okay. He either hit a worldie or, obviously he scored. And or he missed a sitter. And I didn't realize.
You went through a lot of emotions. On
I
that
did.
text,
I
didn't
was
you?
all over the map.
Too many scenarios to think through for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, because
Opinion.
Brian
I was
loves,
thinking maybe he
'cause-
went into the crowd and grabbed a baby and it could have been anything.
Again, Travis, perfect example of Brian's sort of his text.
Yeah.
You got to read into them.
Yeah.
I didn't know which way to go. I needed
Yeah.
a traffic sign.
I mean, this is coming from a guy who, wore a Gylfi Sigurdsson jersey for, a long time.
Not a jersey.
I think you wore it one time too long before we're like,
I think you got cleared of
should we be
everything. It's
wearing
not as weird as it was before.
No,
but
I did wear it one time when I was
I think
unaware
Scott called you on it.
unaware of the,
Dude,
unaware
what are
of
you
the
doing?
allegations at the time. To be clear, thinking of the footballer, not the man.
Sure.
At that point.
No. Yeah. All right. So let's. I just wanted to go over that.
The game week was poor overall, unless you captained
really bad.
Salah. If you are going
Yeah.
for the obvious choices, and then if you went off script, you might have
might have hit-
done well
yeah, there was a decent number of picks.
for the most part.
So, do you want to go through the table? I think we were talking about
Yes.
running through the table at one point.
Dave wanted to hijack it just for a second to
Hey,
talk
you know
about
what?
how he had
Let
a really
me,
good
Let
game
me
week.
pat you on the back.
Thanks.
Here,
Thanks.
that's me patting you on
Thanks.
the back.
That feels nice.
Good job. Nobody talked about my 74 last week, but
we should
just
have.
saying.
We should have.
I'm a humble
Hey,
guy. I
listen,
don't need to bring it
You
up.
got to toot your own horn around here. Okay.
We didn't talk about it long enough. We did bring it up.
Did we?
We did. It did not.
Let's go back to the tape.
It definitely came up. It did not linger. So
Gotcha,
that's the
okay.
difference.
Thank you, Brian, for holding Travis.
Story of my
accountable.
life.
Yeah.
Liverpool, top of the table. Liverpool. They've been there. It seems like for at least a couple of weeks.
It's Liverpool's title to
was the
lose.
first-
Is the way you need.
It
to
sure
start this.
seems like it.
Yeah.
Liverpool on fire. Can't stop us now. Get out of our way, Liverpool.
Liverpool has come through in the clutch where other teams have slipped. It's not necessarily that they are blowing everybody out of the water. They've been consistently good enough, I guess is probably the way to say it, which has been fantastic because other teams have fallen short when the challenges have come up.
Yeah.
That has been the MO for Liverpool in the past. Very pleased to see that they have overcome that and have found ways to win and grind through, win dirty, win late.
It was a
And it's
great
been really-
weekend
it's
if you're a
really fun.
Liverpool fan.
Yeah, it's been
United draws,
Oh,
City
yeah.
lose, Arsenal lose, Villa
Chelsea.
lose. You know,
Yeah, it
Like,
was
I'm just saying,
it was a good week.
guys around the top of the table that had been there most of the season
Yep.
that are not there now after this week, good weekend for Liverpool. As a Arsenal fan, I'm like, okay, good. City's, I was watching the City game and I was watching them grind through it, and I'm like, and Semenyo he was the best player on the pitch. Semenyo was unbelievable in that game.
an
I've never
animal.
seen him better. And I'm watching City start to fall apart and Brighton's up 1-0. I'm like, oh man, Arsenal might survive this weekend. Like,
Yeah.
they need a Liverpool loss, and then if City can continue to do this, and Liverpool clutched up and they took care of business with Brighton. All right, now starting.
But hilarious tweet from Tim Bolton, 1981 on X.
Oh.
X.
Travis, your favorite tweet probably of the show tonight, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know what it is, but sure.
To be fair, Liverpool haven't played anybody above them in the table yet. Something to think about.
Wow.
Which would only be City, right, at this stage, really. But still, that is fair.
He said it 4 days ago.
That's still pretty
He's a
good.
pretty funny guy.
All right,
pretty
no,
good.
it's good.
Whatever that.
All right. So what do we take, Brian? So there was already, kind of creeping into a already scheduled segment. Konate leaves this game, the Brighton game, hurt.
Yeah, it looked like the kind of
Yeah.
thing where you either have a separated shoulder or a fractured collarbone
Yeah,
or whatever.
looked real bad.
Looked
Did
bad.
not look good
Van
at
Dijk
all.
came down on him. He's played since.
Right. He played today.
He played
So-
yesterday.
He played yesterday.
He played
So I think
yesterday.
he's fine.
and started.
Is there a possibility that he won't play? Sure.
He was subbed, but they were hammering
to-
Leverkusen.
Here's the thing, though. Joe Gomez came on and looked like prime Cannavaro. Like it was insane how seamless it was when Gomez came on. So I think there is a possibility that he rests Konate, but the Van Dijk came out here and said, "Yeah, you never want to see that happen. Sorry, bro. Also, it's his arm. You don't use that in soccer, so you'll be fine. Basically, in football, he'll be fine. Even if he's got to like do a soft cast, he'll be fine. Which, to his point, he did end up playing this week. So again, I don't think that's that big of an issue.
I bring that up, not that he's been lighting the fantasy world on fire, but he's been fine.
Yeah,
he's been good.
He's a good value own.
It's that he was the preferred
transfer
he was
out, right?
Well, he was the preferred transfer in 2 weeks ago, and now he's a top transfer out.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But people weren't paying attention midweek, and or like you say, early transfers.
Right, I think everybody
like,
sees how bad it looks, and then you get into the
freak out.
Yeah, a few days later, you find
There's
out
a reason why you have a bench.
Information is more valuable than money.
Than pound
What
dollars.
is it? What is it? Information
is more valuable than
friends.
Money. Information
greater than
information gets in the door, gets you in the door.
Points.
Points get you let you stay there. I think is
interesting.
The way it is.
Okay.
Liverpool is the second best. We've talked about kind of defensive performance so far this season. Liverpool's second best for expected goals against. 10.78. Actually, Fulham now top of the XG against, top defensive XG against team for the season. Liverpool conceding 6 goals on an XG against of 10.78. We've already talked about this. They've lucked away a few times from conceding.
No question.
I would say just based on
in general has been
just
really
based
good.
on expected goal against differential. You'd say, I guess they're the fourth luckiest team this season.
Okay.
Like, is this going to course correct at some point? Like, are they going to? And I'm not saying they're going to get leaky, but like even this week, like they concede first. Feels like we haven't seen that in a while, and it's
true.
And it's it's a Brighton team that at this point I would just say you kind of expect Brighton to score most games. So I guess that's why I'm saying like there's this handful of teams like. Are they playing? They playing a bottom, one of those bottom 6 or 7 teams. You feel good about clean sheets in those games, but it's just not. It just doesn't feel like it's safe to call them some defensive juggernaut, and they're never going to concede goals ever.
That's certainly fair. The thing about this week was that Brighton didn't stop. This game was end to end most of the match.
Well, even the go-ahead goal, it's on a breakaway that is just from like an error, a really bad sequence from Brighton on a 4-on-2, something like that. That's just one just misplaced pass that turns into the winning goal. So.
And I guess you are correct. Again, I do think there's a tremendous amount of luck that is at play here. But the reason why I pointed that out was because there was a substantial defensive effort. The organization has been good, and against teams that come at us, Liverpool has really stepped up, and yes, they are not a defensive juggernaut, but they've gotten the results.
Well, they do have half of their games are clean sheets.
Yeah, which again, you can say what you want to say about luck and the XG and everything like that, but there's been some really good individual performances, and again, as I kind of stated before, goalkeeper play has been very, very strong, which has contributed to turning that XG. Expected XG into less actual goals scored.
All right, now let's get to.
But just for their sake too, though, this was we talked about it weeks and weeks ago. It was a big point of discussion that this is the busiest and most difficult run of fixtures that they have faced yet this season, and so far it's a draw at Arsenal. It's a win in the Carabao Cup against Brighton. It's a
win.
It's a come from behind win against Brighton in the league. Yeah, and then it's a home win against Leverkusen, heading into a home game again against now floundering Aston Villa team. So now and then after the break, coming back to Southampton, all of a sudden this so-called difficult run is just looking like kind of cakewalk, and the only tough stretch is going to be after Southampton, where you go Madrid, Manchester City, Newcastle. So I guess like all of
It
the
does
like
sound a bit daunting.
all of the fretting
Yeah.
over a lot of this stuff has turned into like, it's just kind of they're just kind of chugging
Look,
through.
they're
here.
a good team, and I like good players on good teams because chances are they're going to give you something. That brings us to Salah. Salah's ownership is 44.4. I own him, and I already said I owned him, I think, for the first time last week or this week as I had made the move, and I went off of Haaland, who had not been lighting the world on fire, and it worked out this week. It still terrifies me. I think every week it will terrify me that I don't own him.
Yeah.
But their City's schedule upcoming is not great. And I figured if this was going to be a time to not own him, it would be now. Now, what other, besides, Trent obviously is continues to be an option, even though he's getting outscored by his teammate, Virgil.
I think Trent's too expensive.
And Trent's really expensive for the money, especially when there's guys cheaper than him that are out all around him that he's not first place defender and deserving his price, I guess is my point. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I have not owned Trent all season. I know both of you guys have and or still do, and I'm not saying it's bad. I just feel like you can find the money other place. Like if you're going to save money in one spot, my opinion all season has been to save it there, and I've never owned him. Now, again, Trent has the talent and the capability to rattle off some scores. I just don't think, especially Travis, and we don't need to go into Slot's system, but it just doesn't seem like he's in as many scoring and or assisting opportunities, and I'm probably wrong about this. I'm just telling you what the eyeball says, as he used to have with Klopp. And maybe that was just from they were pushing the ball more when they got turnovers instead of being more possession-based, and therefore the build-up's a little bit slower, and Trent's not getting into places and or his talents. I mean, look, he hit a great through ball against Arsenal to Darwin, who then crossed it to Salah. So he's doing good things, and in no way am I trash-talking him.
Yeah.
He's
doing the dirty work.
He's just not showing up fantasy-wise, and that's what we're here to talk about is fantasy points. So, and then, Brian, it was worth bringing up Diaz. Diaz has been on a cold streak in the league. His last 6 matches, 2-1-1, 5-1. That's 5 games. That's not 6 in my face. But against Leverkusen yesterday, he scores a hat trick.
Yeah.
So Brian, didn't you say that Diaz was one of the number one sells out?
He's one of the top midfield transfers out. I'm not surprised at all. I'm actually surprised he still has enough people that have him to be able to make him the number one midfield transfer out. I think it's just because
people held him for too long.
His ownership is 25.1%.
Look, I did what anyone else who wild carded in game week 6 did. I saw 14, 15, 3, and 16
for sure.
in 3 of 4 weeks for Luis Diaz, and thought, hey, the minutes are good, the performances are there, doing what everyone else did, and saying if I have no Salah, I can free up
absolutely
$6 or whatever it is. So, it was a mistake that I corrected, I think, 2 weeks after that. It was that once he got benched once, it was enough to send him out.
Right.
He's been benched, in 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, he's too hot to not play. The issue is they're going to manage his minutes. That's why Darwin didn't start.
My thought was this: the reason why
yesterday.
I wouldn't look to bring him in if I owned him after the midweek performance. I probably would not sell him.
Yeah, if you already have him, hold him.
I am not going to go get him.
Yeah,
mainly because is it possible that and this happens in American sports, I feel like all the time, when you play someone that you're somewhat familiar with, at least in the Premier League, sometimes, I'm not saying he's gotten figured out, but teams have probably figured out, okay, strengths and weaknesses. If he's going to beat us, let's make him do this. And did Leverkusen actually look to try to execute that?
Absolutely. Well, I would say Jonathan Tah is one of the best defenders in slot. Even and
Who?
said something to this effect.
Never heard of him.
Jonathan Tah is one of the best defenders in
I
Germany.
never have heard of him.
If not the best central defender in Germany, which is part of the reason
But
why
Diaz was not playing.
which is part of the reason why Diaz played the 9 in the middle, and Gakpo played on the left.
Okay.
I
saw
and Darwin,
that. I
Darwin
thought-
didn't get
I
on the
thought
field.
surely
So
that
once
was
Darwin
a
came
typo.
on, Diaz went back out to the left, and Darwin played through the middle. And he scored one of his goals from the left. All that to say, he did good work against great opposition, who were playing him very tough.
So then let me phrase
So
this.
I
have
think
not
he's
seen,
on form. I think
I
he's
have
on
not
form.
seen Diaz play through the middle in the Premier League yet.
He has not played through the middle in the Premier League.
So in Leverkusen's defense, they'd never seen it either.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, which was the point,
so
right?
Slot
Which is the point.
Pulled a fast one. on
Tried to. Xabi
So,
Alonso says
is
that
this
they were
some-
expecting something like that, change like that.
Whatever, Chavi.
But yeah,
All right.
that was the
So-
point. Catch him off guard.
Is this something then that we could see in the Premier League, him playing through the middle?
It was actually a question that was asked of Slot after the match, and he
Okay.
said it's not something that I would plan to use regularly, but it's basically it's in the arsenal.
Was this
It could happen, but it's not something I'm planning on doing.
so this
all the
was a
time.
Philly,
Yeah.
right? Was this a Philly special?
To some
Like,
degree.
in other words,
the idea was
We needed
that,
to kind of pull
yeah,
a fast one, and they're not going to see it coming. And
it was a tactical opportunity
gonna-
that they tried to exploit.
we're gonna use this fast one right now. No one's seen it yet.
They were expecting Leverkusen to prepare for a physical game against Darwin, and instead they got the speed of
quickness
of
Diaz
Diaz through the middle.
with the ability to occupy space in the
Well,
middle, as
He was
opposed to having a
moving
sideline.
all over the place. He was all over the place,
Okay.
which was
Again, so okay,
pulling defenders out of place, which opened up space for guys like Gakpo to operate. Salah got jammed. Their game plan on Salah was pretty good.
okay.
But yeah, all that to say, I think Diaz is a guy on form. I think he's got a lot of confidence. If you got him, hold him. I don't think I would sell him, but I wouldn't go after him just yet either. Same thing with Gakpo. Gakpo's another guy who's scoring like
He's
crazy
not
and
starting
everything. Again,
yet,
minutes
is he?
aren't guaranteed. Even though he's on form, and he's in a forward position where there are just better, cheaper options right now.
Yeah.
Right now, Salah and maybe a Van Dijk or Konate are really the only Liverpool owns that are surefires.
Which is interesting considering their place in the
Well,
table.
no, I mean, I was
Yeah.
going to say, I was going to ask if it's Gakpo time just because he started 3 of the last 4 league
Yeah.
games.
It very well could be, but it's just too early to say in the league with Gakpo and Diaz right now.
I mean, goal and an assist. I mean, you can't really complain.
And he
It's
had the
just
brace
a
before that.
Yeah, and a tiny. Well, I mean, just in 3 of the last 4 games, just in the Premier League. Just thinking you can't really complain, but it's only 2% of managers who've even gone for it. Which
It's
is,
just
I
he's
mean,
in a
that's-
forward position, and there's a lot of guys.
If he's a midfielder, I think he's worth investigating. But as a forward, it's just not a good.
He's created more chances than he's had shots, and I think that's the thing. He's only Cunha has created more chances in the last 4 weeks than Cody Gakpo among forwards. That's
It's
my
not a
my
terrible
thing with,
differential, but I would rather go for somebody
all the
else
guys
that's
we talked
cheaper.
about last week, all the cheaper guys
Yeah.
that we talked about last week would still be preferable, and then Solanke, Nicholas
Yep.
Jackson are only a little bit more expensive. So it's just Gakpo. I mean, good form, good form.
And
He's doing
Cunha's a
well.
good pickup too, obviously.
But no, I was gonna say Salah is like it's either Salah and a defender, or you're not investing in Liverpool at all.
Okay.
You can't do it because you can't.
It just seems-
You couldn't ever go for Luis Diaz at this point.
Yeah.
You couldn't. I mean, people are gonna last week talking themselves into falling into the Darwin trap again.
Yeah, don't do that.
Jota's out, of course, until after the break, and then Virgil's back-to-back returns for Virgil. I mean, you're not ever expecting an assist from Virgil van Dijk, so I think that's where you're
Or a
like,
goal, which he's found a lot of.
and
too.
even so to go from a goal last week to an assist this week,
Right.
and you get a 7 and a 5
Yeah.
or whatever it is, where it's just like, okay, that's great,
All right.
but that's not what you're getting him for.
Manchester
All right,
City.
let's talk City. Vardiel is insane. Like, what the heck? Like, at some point, this has got to stop, right?
Well, it just seems like sometimes he's the number 2 offensive option behind Holland. Yeah.
Like, it's...
And I think he is the most desired explosive defender.
Oh, yeah. No
easily.
question. The real issue with them is they're leaky as all get out, and you can't count on an offensive return from him.
You think
but
that,
he's doing it.
But he keeps doing it. And I guess that's I agree with everything you said. Although I continue to own Rico Lewis.
Yeah,
and I don't know why. But that's not costing me a lot either.
But I mean, everyone. That was another. I mean, everyone.
Ina instead.
But everyone got pepped on that one just because we said it the way everyone else did. Anyone else would have shared the same comment. Pep saying Rico Lewis is. We would love to give Rico a rest. What happened? I just lost. I am not talking into my.
We can hear you. Keep going.
But Rico. Just that he's saying
want to give him a rest, but we have to play him.
He's the one guy we can't rest.
I feel like Pep does this. This is not the first time that he's done this where he talks about a player like, oh, he's
and
essential.
then he sits him,
and then he sits him.
Yeah.
So
it's like a game.
And then to have Guardiola keep.
Well, it's the fact that Lewis comes on with 17 minutes in a game that they needed a goal against Bournemouth,
and he is a creative player.
I don't know how much. I mean, I don't know how much I could. I don't know. I would have a little beef with that. I don't know. I haven't seen numbers. Yeah. I just don't know how creative he is.
And who else would they bring on, I guess, is the real question. Who else do they have that they could
For sure. And that's what I was looking at.
Speaking
of De Bruyne, they could have brought him on.
True.
De Bruyne
was back
James
on the bench.
McAtee. They could have brought Nico O'Reilly. They could have brought on Jacob Wright. They could have brought on
all excellent
Jemiah
options.
Simpson Poussey.
You would have he started. You would have thought that they would have to sub on Savinho in 5 weeks after the injury that looked like he was sustaining in the previous match, and then he started the Champions League match for them immediately.
Such
afterwards.
a weird, like, how's that even possible?
Weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, bottom line is, I was mocking City's. They didn't have anyone else to bring on.
Even this week,
Doku came on, and Rico Lewis came on. Those were the two subs for City in this game.
Yeah. It's another game, Dave. I know you've kicked Holland to the curb, and results say that's good.
No, scares me to death.
I can't. This is probably like it made sense. You know, we talked about the numbers after De Bruyne got hurt, and there was 4 weeks there where Holland specifically suffered in putting the ball into the net, but not necessarily his underlying numbers were okay. They just weren't great. They were still top 2 or 3. They weren't overwhelmingly number 1, which is where he normally is,
and or needs to be based on his price demand.
Well, but the last 2 weeks he did everything that he normally would have done in games where he was scoring hat tricks or 4 goals, and this week leads the league in shots. So it's 6 more shots for him this week, 3 more big chances in the game this week, which is
not coming
both
off.
of those were number 1 of any player in the league. That's 7 big chances for him in the last 2 games,
and has 1 goal to show for it, right?
So
didn't he score in the game before? I think so.
Yeah, he had the 1 goal real early on against Southampton, and then nothing the rest of the game. 9 big chances for Holland since the De Bruyne injury, starting game week 5. Which, just to be clear, that means he's had 2 big chances in match weeks 5 through 8, and in the last 2 games he's had 7. So a non-penalty XG of 3.83 in the last 2 games, has scored 1 goal. The fact that he's come away with nothing in 2 games, I mean, yes, anyone who sold him, if you sold him 6 weeks ago, if you sold him going into game week 5, congratulations.
Yes,
That was the
agreed.
time, and you did the right thing, and you've been proven to have done the right thing. But I mean, there's nothing luckier in the world than people who got rid of Haaland in the last 2 games, and I just
I
it's
know.
amazing.
It terrifies me.
It's one of them.
All right.
Good reminder from FPL Meerkat. I know we've referenced that guy before, but
Yes.
something that I think that's what meerkats do.
Meerkats do not make, but they do kind of stand up like
Yeah.
this, and they look around.
I want them to meow. They're
King
gonna
Julian's
meow
a
at my
meerkat,
mom.
isn't he?
Yes.
FPL Meerkat reminded us this week that the number 1 player overall in FPL has never owned Haaland. The number 2 player in FPL overall currently owns Haaland. And the number 4 overall player in FPL has owned Haaland all season. So basically, just to say,
There's so many paths to success.
this has been the way he
Yeah.
said it. Currently, this has been such a refreshing season in comparison to last season, when everyone had the exact same 8 or 9 players.
Yeah.
There is no wrong or right way to play it this year, maybe more than ever.
Before you go on, I want to clarify something. We had a pretty egregious error that was just made. King Julian is not a meerkat; he's a lemur.
Oh, lemur.
And
Okay.
it's really important that we don't mislead our
Are they
listeners.
related in the animal kingdom?
Probably, but I'm not digging that deep. I just wanted to make sure that we
No,
had the error
that's good.
checking. It's
I mean,
we have standards.
I want that kind of clarity.
Yeah,
I
get
think
you.
that's the minimum
Thank you.
we should expect of each other.
All right.
On this.
Very good. Phil Foden, last thing on City.
Where has he been?
Same unluck as Haaland.
He was shooting a lot.
Yeah.
It
And-
seemed like in the Bournemouth game.
He was way more active. The bigger issue for him this week, just his general expected goal involvement. So yes, he was 4 shots for him in the game. He created 2 big chances in the game. Of course, finishes with no assists. Did play the full 90 minutes. Yeah, this was another game where, just the results didn't come with the performance.
But
he did score.
Do you own him?
He scored in the Champions League.
You did own him. Do you still own him?
I do own him. I did not take him out. I considered it, but if I did, it would have been for Cole Palmer, which would have been a sideways move. An equal bit of nothing.
For those people who are concerned and or think Palmer may be out now that he has a yellow dreaded triangle, would you, if you had to, do you think bringing Foden in would be the next best move?
I mean,
assuming Palmer owners probably have Saka
Sounds like it's a coin flip on
and
Palmer.
or Salah.
so I think so we'll talk about once we get to Manchester United. I think the player you're gonna talk yourself out of you'll have to talk yourself
Fernandes.
out of getting is
Bruno?
probably Bruno Fernandes or one of the Spurs or a Spurs midfielder
Well,
if you don't have one.
And we will get to that. All right.
So, but Foden, the fact that they're so close, like once we get to Arsenal too, you can explain why Saka is or is not a pick.
They're
in
next,
that,
right? They're
in
third.
that range. It's close. It's close enough that you might,
jerk move.
depending on what kind of money you have in the bank. But
All right. Travis has been waiting for this. Number 3 in the table.
No, he's the most excited about this. I'm just
Nottingham
excited that
Forest.
it's not Arsenal.
Just say what you said though just a second ago. I'm not really sure what you make of Manchester City because of De Bruyne being back
What-
and available for selection.
Is
the fact
he
that he was
back?
on the bench.
Did he play in the Champions League game? I bet he did not. If only there was a way, Travis.
I know.
So I what seemed like to me is that, and I hate to give City any type of credit and or whatever, but they are injured pretty good. And I read their lineup of subs kind of showing that they literally are scraping the bottom of the barrel just to fill out a team. And it felt like Savinho and De Bruyne were never coming in the game. and were literally just listed in the team sheet, so they didn't have to grab some under 16s to fill out their roster.
He played 5 minutes.
Yeah,
he subbed on at
came
85.
Okay,
that's
this
super
this
late.
muddies the water.
But the fact that he did play,
Pointless.
I think I would assume in the league, 5 minutes in the Champions League is not a
When
real,
you're losing 4-1,
right.
Yeah.
Obviously, it
what's
wasn't.
the point of even coming in?
I think they just need to get him
Fit.
running,
Okay,
which means I would.
which means he's probably not going to start this week, but he'll
Can't-
probably
He might
sub
get
in and
40.
play.
He might
He'll
get 45. He might get 60.
He might get 20.
He might come in on at 60. Right. Yeah. That tends to be what it is. They bring
Which
him on,
again
bring somebody on
increases
at the 60th
Haaland's
minute.
value. So if
Yeah.
you're a Haaland owner and you're like, "Holy crap, De Bruyne's going to be back," even though the run in the next few weeks is not easy, it's got it's got to brighten your world a little bit. It terrifies me.
I still think they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. I mean, Brighton, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be tough at home against City. They're home against Spurs, who I don't. The way City responded to the Spurs loss in the EFL Cup there. Wait, it was Carabao. That's what that when they lost to
EFL's
Spurs
right.
the other
Right.
the
Yeah,
other
it was
day.
Carabao. Yeah.
You saw them at the full-time whistle. Haaland was an unused sub in that game. They're kind of laughing a little bit. There wasn't it didn't
Pep's
seem
already said we can't even win the treble. Like
Right.
he's already specifically said that beyond the competition that they're out, he's expecting them also not to win other competitions that they're in still. It's very weird.
Yeah, so I just think this is.
Right.
I mean, it's the kind of thing like it's a. I don't even. You can't even call it a revenge game. It's just Spurs and City, and the way that game tends to go. It tends to be open. It tends to bring. There just tend to be goals in it. Spurs is nothing great defensively. We've said that over and over again. It's an attacker's game. It's not a defender's game, and so that's a game where I'm not worried about them at all. And then. Who knows by the time City go to Anfield in the league after that. So there's just I feel like
rise to
there's
that occasion anyways, right?
and then I would say for City, like after Spurs, the fact that they go to Liverpool and then play Nottingham Forest at home, once we talk about Forest, just the numbers on Nottingham Forest continue to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They are always green on all the rating things, and they are the grayest to red non-green of any of the teams that are on there. I don't know why. Like, it's a ridiculous thing that a Brentford away, according to FPL, is a gray matchup, and it makes it look like it's bad. And it's like they're one of the best possible matchups right now for attackers. So why you would ever look at that and be like, well, I don't know, my guy's playing at Brentford. It's like that should be Nottingham Forest.
All right.
at least
Nottingham Forest official there.
They're
Chris Wood.
They're third in the table.
Chris Wood is
That's
lighting.
Chris Wood,
is
Matt
having
Sells,
the season of his
I know.
career. Continues to do things all over the place. Continues to be in the right place at the right time.
He has 5
And-
goals from 6 shots on target in the last the last 6 games.
You
or
Love
love
to see it.
No, I
that
do not.
stat
I
love to
so
see it.
much.
Uh,
It's Brian's favorite stats.
Speaking
Loves
of, he
to see
can't
it.
keep getting away with it. With him not having him, I'm sure plenty of other people who don't have him. I want to go full Jesse Pinkman on that one and just say,
Do drugs.
No, I don't want to. Nor make them.
Your analogy is confusing me. I'm sorry.
It's that Jesse is the one who screamed he can't keep getting away with it.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay.
Anyway,
didn't
I was going
watch
to
it.
say that Nottingham Forest is balanced. This is an extremely well balanced team. Offensively, they're 6th best for shots per game. They're averaging 5.4 shots on target per game, which is tied for 4th best in the league. They're slightly better in away games. They're at least a higher XG in away games. They've scored 8 real goals in away games and 6 real goals in home games.
As opposed to what kind of goals?
Expected ones.
Oh, interesting.
So they're
Yeah.
7.3 XG at
right.
home, which is 14th. So they actually are underperforming their XG at home. On the road, they have an 8.39 XG, and they've scored 8 goals. So they're kind of right on target in away games as far as XG is concerned. But defensively, this is the thing that I feel like we've been saying this for a long time. They're the third best expected goals against in the league. 11.06 is third. And like I said, it's now Fulham, Liverpool, Nottingham Forest. That's your top 3 by expected goals against for the season. They've allowed 128 shots, which is tied for 8th. So just they're like, I feel like once you get there, you're like, you might as well just say it's a kind of middling as far as shots conceded. But they're only allowing 0.9 XG per shot, which is tied for the best of any team in the league. So, you can look comprehensively the back line, which includes Alex Moreno. I don't know if we've mentioned that on this show.
Never heard of him.
But no, that back line with Sells has been excellent.
Yeah.
And then you factor in the attacking players that they have. It's
So clinical at the front, stingy at the back. Yates is good at getting in the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of their defensive shape.
Well, it's just interesting. Other than if you look at the top players at positions, Aina makes the cut, and then Chris Wood, but there's no midfielders that even make the top 20.
Well, that was a place where everyone, I think, felt like they could find some value to start the season with Gibbs White,
and
Malanga.
Sells is the top goalkeeper.
Agree. I think Hudson-Odoi is their highest scoring midfielder.
Guys like that who were, I would say, very good at the end of the season last season, and Gibbs White's he got suspended, he's been hurt. You've got the guys they're just not the required midfielders at all. So there's just nothing about that.
Advice would be, which is not groundbreaking, Chris Wood, although you would say there's better owns probably than Chris Wood, and/or then possibly Aina, Sells, and/or maybe another defender.
Well, so how could you say not to, Chris Wood's the number 1 transfer in, period. So he's more.
But
more
Ryan, he's only had 6 shots.
No, I understand. I'm not saying it's not that he shouldn't be. It's just that this week he scored with his only shot on target again. Gets you a bonus point, goes for a 7. This is however many weeks in a row of getting 1 shot with 1 goal, and that's kind of the way it's been. Nottingham Forest fixtures are toughening up. So my question is, are you still buying? Obviously, everybody's buying them, whether they look at it or not. I'm saying the people have already spoken when it comes to this, but
they're four out of their next 5.
So they're home to Newcastle, and then they're at Arsenal in the next 2. Do you really see those as high ceiling games enough that you're going for Chris Wood? If you don't have him, you need to get him in now. It's just not. It's not the kind of fixtures where I'm like, oh yeah, let's get in there. I got to get.
Ipswich at home isn't bad.
The one thing about
Ipswich at home isn't bad.
No, I'm saying the next 2 games. Those next 2 games, if you wanted to wait,
3 out of the next 5 are away,
right?
But 5 out of the next 6: Newcastle, Arsenal, City, United, Villa.
Right. That's what I'm saying. These aren't these are not the kind of matches where you're like, yes, set it and forget it. I got to get that guy in there. I think there are other players, and that's the reason why. I have Sells. I do not have one of the defenders. The 9.8% and rising. People who have Ola Aina. You're buying the 15 points he scored this week, but again, Dave, nothing better than getting 15 points in 1 game, which outscores Holland's score since game week 6. But for what it's worth for him, nothing higher than a 0.07 XG for Aina in any game this season.
Right.
Dave, you might have guessed already. Travis, you might have guessed this too.
Never.
He has 4 shots total for the season, and you may also have guessed he has exactly 1 shot on target.
So is Forrest at third in the table for fakers? Are they posers? Are they posers?
I think
sounds like they're overachieving.
But the rule for everyone is you play who you play. You play the schedule in front of you. And
they're clinically finishing the chances that they're getting based on the numbers that you're
Yeah.
sharing, and they are preventing the other teams from scoring, and that's all you can ask for from a football team, right? So they can't play future matches. They can only play the schedule in front of them, and when they do exactly what is necessary to get a result, and that's how you win, right? So I don't think
You win by winning.
I don't think that they're posing. I don't think they're faking. I just think that they have a good run of fixtures, and they are doing what is necessary. They're not doing anything flashy or anything special. They're doing what is necessary.
I wanted to set myself up here, and when I asked that question, mainly meaning Chris Wood, you could easily argue is the most clinical finisher in the league at the moment.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So, as an owner, and or anyone who went and got him, yes, the schedule is difficult, but the guy only technically needs one chance a game, and he's content to
And he's
get
getting
that.
it, and
He
they're
shoots
getting
scores.
it,
And
to
he'll
him.
get one chance.
Yeah.
At least one chance. So that schedule is daunting. It's not scaring me. If the early buyers, I think you'll be fine. If you haven't bought them, we'll get to other options that possibly could be better.
I'm saying that looking down through, like, I don't know how you don't look at, 10 other people and just say, if you're buying somebody even short term, they're better.
Okay.
They're better than Chris Wood. But again, it's not going to stop people from making that move. As the defenders go, though, like, Ina's the, probably number one transfer for defenders. Again,
He's so cheap.
It's 4-7, but there are cheaper guys in that defense who are doing
Similar.
the same amount of stuff. It's that he scored a goal this week in a goal that
Yeah,
even
unlikely.
he was
Yeah.
shocked to have.
So
to have
give me
scored.
some names. Who else would you be
Hold on.
targeting?
I think we'll get to them.
No. I'm just saying
We're on it.
I'm
You saying we want to play a name game right now?
I'm saying on Nottingham Forest. I'm
Just
saying
asking
Alex
who it
Moreno
is.
is 4.4.
That's what I was thinking for. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just really wanted him to
You
say
were
by
setting
Alex
that
Moreno.
up. Well played.
So do you have any
No.
numbers on this guy, Alex
Well
Moreno, this
played.
new kid that we're talking about?
No, we've done this before. We have run through the Nottingham Forest defenders before. Before
I
this
know.
big run of
I
matches,
know.
I can pull the notes. We definitely
I don't
did
want to
this.
hear about Alex Moreno anymore. Do you own him is all I want to know.
No, I'm just.
Will you ever?
It's Alex Moreno.
How
it's
do you not own him?
It's Milenkovic, and
I
it's
want to know if he's ever owned him. I don't know that you ever have.
it's Alex.
this
Not
season.
this year, any year.
No,
have you
not
ever owned
this
him?
season.
He's definitely owned him before.
I did not.
I don't
and
know.
I
I
definitely
don't know if
have
that's
owned
true.
him before.
I know that's fact.
I'm gonna have to go back and check the stats.
I'm saying he's 4.4. Milenkovic is 4.5. Murillo is 4.5.
Okay.
So you have three defenders on the Nottingham Forest team who are all just as involved, who are just as clean sheet capable.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say like even it happened already. It happened already this in the last run of matches where you're going to bank a clean sheet. It just happened to Kadioglu, I think that might have happened with him recently for Brighton, where he was off on 71 minutes or whatever in the Wolves
Banked
game.
the clean sheet.
But I'm saying, like, you have Alex Moreno, who does tend to get subbed a little earlier, but he's played 71 minutes or more since game week 6. So he's come in since, like, he's
4
playing
game
the
weeks.
majority of
Been
minutes.
fine.
He got an assist this week to go with a clean sheet. So, yeah, Ina gets a goal, which gets him 3 bonus, which pumps him up to.
Did you text
15
him and let him
points.
know you were proud of him?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
if I bring in Moreno and he all of a sudden stops playing, because I feel like, Brian, we know that this happens.
I'm
If I
saying,
bring him in, I'm coming for blood.
I'm saying that I don't even have to tell you to buy him or not buy him. We're saying specifically.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying Nottingham Forest. Like we just said it 2 seconds ago. Nottingham Forest is playing Newcastle, Arsenal. You
Yes.
get one good game with Ipswich.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
at Manchester City. They're at Manchester United. They're home against Aston Villa, and then they play Brentford and Tottenham after that. There is
not
like
awesome.
one good match in there for anyone. So I'm saying
so things are changing. Don't target
Right.
Nottingham Forest
I am
defense, even though they've been awesome
yes,
thus far.
I am specifically
Okay.
saying even Sells, who I do own Sells as a goalkeeper. I am way less optimistic about Sells from
Yeah.
now until, like almost Christmas because of the schedule that
Okay.
Nottingham Forest have. Not because they're bad. I'm saying like you might like this is a case where the defense has been so good, you could downgrade the attack that's facing them. But I'm saying you're still facing teams who are quality attackers with quality going forward. So great, buy Ola Aina, put him in your team, and hope that he scores another worldie again.
Won't happen
in a game where they lose 2-1. Like,
All right.
I'm just saying, like Moreno, you feel better about benching 4.4 than you do about 4.7.
Agreed.
And Milenkovic is the same. Murillo is the same.
Yeah.
Milenkovic's actually the one who's the most truly like attacking. 17 touches in the opposition box for the season for Milenkovic. The next closest on Nottingham Forest is Murillo with 6 box touches. The thing is, it's not turning into shots for any of these guys. Murillo's the most creative. Moreno's created the most big chances. So it's like all of these guys are, I think,
toss
like,
up, and you probably shouldn't be playing with these fireballs.
I think they're all really good. It's just this next, like, I don't know, 8 games.
It's a good run.
Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a long while. Before
Moving
you get
on
close with them.
to Chelsea Football Club.
Never heard of him.
Cold Palmer and Nico Jackson, I'm guessing, are the only things worth discussing here. What's Cold's status?
Wait, are they in fourth
Brian?
place?
Do we know?
They are
Chelsea
they're-
Football Club is in 4th place in the thing.
and ahead of Arsenal.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's weird.
On goal differential,
Man. On just pure skill, probably.
Goal differential.
number of players.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Villa,
Numbers,
Arsenal, Chelsea, all tied
Yeah.
on 18 points.
We'll see today if Palmer is able to train with us. He didn't train the last 2 days. We'll see. Tackle was not a normal one. Hopefully, he can be back. 50% from Dinnery in terms of...
I think the feeling
Possibility of
was
him
he
coming
wasn't
back
going to
this
play midweek. So what was I think FPL Physio also had a note on that.
Mhm.
Kind of the idea of if he wasn't going to play in the midweek game, what was the point of him training
Right.
anyway? So him
Well,
not in
fitness
training the last
levels
2 days
isn't
is
that big a
not
deal,
like
but yeah.
it doesn't.
Okay.
But also if it's just a knock, they're playing
Arsenal.
they're playing you guys.
Yeah.
So it's kind of important for him to play that game.
Yeah, it's a big one.
But if it's more serious, then that why risk him? Obviously, he's not going to play against Arsenal, and he gets the whole break to recover.
I'm going to start him
Yeah.
unless some news
Yeah.
pops in the next couple of days.
It's a knee.
And look, there's a
You
reason
never
why you
know.
have your bench. There was a player, what was it? Well, there's a lot of people. Was it last week, Brian, that didn't start Saka? Was it 2
Yeah.
weeks? It was 2
It
weeks
was
ago. It was
the-
2
Well, he
weeks
was
ago.
injured.
We thought he was injured.
Yeah, it
and
was the
then
Liverpool game.
It was a Liverpool game.
Everybody in the media made it sound like him being injured was the reason why they didn't win. That
No,
Liverpool
there's other
played a weak
reasons.
inside.
Fouls not calling it Havertz. No, Kiwi or whatever it was. I can't remember. Havertz got the goal. You're like, oh, it's a handball.
It hit him in the arm.
Yeah, whatever. No one saw it. Bad refereeing. All right. Anything else with Chelsea? I feel like we can kind of breeze past 4th place Chelsea here. Like, no one's going to buy their defense. I'm not even sure they've held a clean sheet yet this season.
Yeah, is Jackson still ownable at this point?
I think Jackson's probably worth it. It's just he's around guys. It's the same Chris Wood argument you could have. He's just around
Kind of
guys.
expensive too, compared to again some of these cheaper guys that are scoring.
Yeah.
A la our last week's pod.
Palmer's 61,000 transfers in, but he's, I think, what we say before, I think 115 out. So
a
more
lot.
sales than buys, and I would imagine the buys are probably mostly early, or at least early transfers.
Before
so
the
I'm
injury, yeah.
not really sure. Again, after you saw,
It's hard to
he got
say
picked.
if you got him, you selling him though. You're holding him, you're starting him.
I'm holding
you-
and starting.
I don't think you move on any of the information we have thus far.
No, I don't think you could buy him, but even they're playing home Arsenal. But then we talked about it before. It's the very obvious thing for everybody. It's starting game week 12 is when
It just
Chelsea fixture turn goes super green for a very long time.
so start paying attention to Chelsea.
the fact that
get your shopping list ready, store up your transfers, be ready to go. Yeah, I agree with
the
that.
fact that but by January 20th, the only non-green matches they have are home to Aston Villa, which is very green right now, and at Spurs, which is a very
hard
green.
to say. Yeah,
I think that's an attacker's game.
Yeah,
and then none of the other games in there. It's not even like the phony green of Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
Like all of the matches in there are like
they should be winning. Yeah, I'm with you.
But that's where if you were going to do it, it would be, you do double up. You do Cole Palmer and Nick Jackson, and I think that's probably it.
All right, moving to the 5th place in the table. Might have a few things to say here. Arsenal.
Can I take these off?
If you're not,
you can't hear anything?
They're not doing anything
okay.
for me.
I mean, you just, sure. Wow, you
let your hair down.
Wow. Wow.
None of our YouTube viewers have ever seen your ears before.
Dave,
we're probably going to get some fan mail now.
Wow.
Dave, I did want to share the really great Chelsea fan tweet from Nate.
What I live for.
Che is, I don't know how you'd say it, Natecheis. A scary 3 years, but normality is resumed, and has a picture of Chelsea above Arsenal on the table.
Enjoy it. It won't be there for long.
I think that's probably fair.
Dave, are we on to Arsenal?
We're there.
Is it all falling apart?
No, but I don't know what's happened. They can't seem to manufacture shots on target.
Is Odegaard back?
Yeah, he subbed on today for a significant amount in the Inter game.
Does that matter?
I hope so.
I feel like he does.
I hope so. Nwaneri, the kid, again, I can't remember. I think I said so much. We'll see. Yeah, there's no way we talked about it. They lost to Newcastle, so I haven't said this. I've said this on the phone to people and maybe in Slack, but Arteta
shouted at your brother.
Arteta got the Newcastle game all wrong with tactics and lineup. Partey was at right back, and Ben White came on and subbed in.
Wasn't on the field, yeah.
Which means he could have started. He started this week in Champions League. Ben White should have been playing. Partey should have been playing the 6, not Declan Rice. That moves Rice up into an 8 spot. And they played Trossard, continued to play him in Odegaard's spot. Wrong decision. I think we snuck by a couple weeks with that. Marino played fine, but Declan Rice, Marino, Partey, greater than Trossard, Marino, and Rice in the midfield. We got owned in the midfield. And the second we moved Partey into the midfield, into the 6, we're freeing up Rice to move up further. And that started changing things. And then we got the kid Nwaneri, who should be playing. He's 17 years old, and he is a phenom.
You want to take him off for Trossard?
He's the new star boy.
Take him off for what's his face?
I don't care.
The other
Martinelli.
Yeah.
Martinelli, who continues to run around and do nothing. And he hasn't produced fantasy this year. Sure, at least it doesn't feel like it.
He did do one thing, Dave.
Did he complete some dribbles?
No. As a Liverpool fan, George Scafe. Yeah, he said after you guys said that Martinelli ran to the corner flag against Liverpool at 70 minutes, just as a reminder. Time wasting.
Understood. So I just think that Arteta got the lineup wrong.
Look, time wasting.
Credit to Newcastle. That's Newcastle's best game they played.
It was like watching like shadow boxers like go up against each other. It was the most hilarious thing to watching, guys, Bruno Guimaraes and Saka fall down next to each other. It's like, oh no, they're both get the stretchers out. Oh my gosh, how many ambulances did we need? Oh, they're fine.
Dave, back-to-back away defeats.
Are you done yet?
Dave,
Yeah, that hasn't happened in a long time.
Per XG philosophy on X, Arsenal generated a 0.00 XG from their on-target shots against Newcastle.
Bad. really
not good.
bad. Really, really bad.
Dave, did you know, this is according to Opta, by the way,
Okay.
that's the first time since May 2022 that you've lost consecutive league games.
That's where I was
That's
going.
good, but Arsenal have fallen behind 1-0 in 4 of the last 6 games.
Yes.
Do you know this one already?
No.
Prior to
But it doesn't
that,
surprise me.
prior to this last 6 games, you fell behind 1-0 in 4 of the previous 31
Right.
games.
Right.
So this is juggernaut defense.
And
that's
what's
turned
been the
into
difference
just
in the
nothing.
last 3 or 4 games? Partey's been playing at right back, not in the 6. I'm telling you, the lineup has got to, and it's because of the defensive injuries. But I don't care what you got to do, like figure it out and make it happen. I mean,
Only-
they get paid. Arteta gets paid to figure it out, and I think he's gotten it wrong now, 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
This is
And
the most criticism that I've heard of Arteta's management
Yeah.
in a really long time. And it
Yeah.
seems like it's
Well,
it's partially bad tactics and it's partially just managing scared is what it seems like. Everybody kind of pointing at like
He does have that streak
playing
in him.
playing for low scores instead of what
Yeah.
felt like wide open. You guys were.
That's
just
what
gonna
your brother
steamroll
has
people.
been saying. The very first question he asked you when we heard Odegaard might be back is, are they going to stop playing like
Stoke,
prime Tony Pulis Stoke,
Yeah, right.
right?
Yeah,
Now he's
an
back.
idiot. He's an idiot.
But I mean, he's obviously
I understand his point. I
because
understand.
that's what's happening.
Well, but it's inarguable in his defense. It's inarguable their shots on target have been poor, and Arsenal fans are losing
10
their
and 1.
minds.
Dave,
in this
only
match.
Brentford has attempted fewer shots in the season in away matches. So not just
Right.
I mean,
I
overall,
believe it.
I'm sure it's not great, but you've attempted 37 shots in away matches. Brentford has 35. Ipswich has attempted 40 shots
Now,
in away matches.
I will say this: in multiple of those away matches, we did get red cards. Okay, so we were playing with 10 men. One of those away, we played early season away at Villa, early season at Tottenham, early season at City. So 3 of the 5 away matches have been those 3, which again, Villa
You're not
now
as good as those teams.
Villa
We get it.
now
That makes
versus
sense.
early season Villa, different. And I think in at least no, out of those 3 matches, it was only the City match. We didn't get a red card at Spurs and or Villa,
but still, tough matches.
we've had other red cards in away match. We've had 3, so there's that.
Dave, FPL Olympian has a question for you, not specifically for you, but basically to say, or more of a comment. If you stop Saka, you stop Arsenal. They have no spark or creativity in attack,
That's
and
completely
Arteta
true right
has
now.
no plan B. Is
First
first of all, is
I would
that
doubt
true?
that.
Trossard
I would doubt that.
running at the defense is Plan B.
Is Odegaard enough to correct it though?
Yes, not just him. I think there will be more that happens. Again, look, I think at times you can get stale. I think obviously it's obvious the offense has gotten stale. I'm not sure tactically anything has changed. I don't think he said, hey, let's just take the foot off the pedal and just pass around the back a few times and do our best Stoke.
At what point do you put Jesus on the field?
Yeah, that probably needs to happen. Raheem Sterling needs to see the pitch more, right?
He's got some energy, right?
Yeah.
Minimal.
He's got to have a little bit of gas left.
He gets a little bit
Right,
of insure in him,
Sterling's
and he's ready to go.
29. He's younger than you think. He's not yet 30. So there's a whole lot of guys in the league older than that producing fine. I think Sterling just needs
Jamie Vardy for
a
one.
run.
It's true.
I think Sterling just needs a run. And I think Jesus needs more time as well. Jesus, more creative, better in hold-up play than Martinelli. Play him on the left.
And he draws fouls better than anybody else on
And
your
he
team.
does draw fouls better than Martinelli. He's got to stop starting Martinelli. Play Sterling and or Jesus. over there.
Martinelli did have a run of a couple games where he looked good and he was producing, but to your point, it's over.
It feels like a year and a half.
It's done. Yeah.
Last
Well,
year,
even this year, he had 1 or 2 games in a row that were okay.
but it
Yeah.
was fool's gold.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Dave,
But
do you want
I don't think it was based on nothing.
So I think
or
there's
based on bad
answers.
performances.
I think Odegaard coming back. Watch if Arsenal's offense does improve. Let's say it even improves this week against Chelsea, and Odegaard's playing. I don't think it will be. Let's see if Martinelli starts and or if Jesus and or Sterling get in the match more.
Do you want some two other funny things?
Yes.
Oh, so funny.
These are hilarious. Spurs fan, Invert the Wing on Twitter, Dave. One of the best Premier League defenses of all time.
Sure.
Have now conceded more goals than Ange's suicidal high line.
Yes.
How about that one?
I know. That's fair at the moment.
And
I was about to ask that question.
It's fair at the moment.
To that point.
Interesting.
Who was at fault for that goal?
Which
The Newcastle goal?
That was a cross to Isak. Great header. That was a one-time. Okay. Sorry. It came back to me.
Yeah.
It was a
Relive it.
unbelievable cross pitch to the wing, and he wing one-times it.
Gordon, yeah.
Gordon one-timed it. It wasn't like he even dribbled twice to set it up. Timber was close, but I don't even think he felt like he needed to completely close down yet, because he probably figured Gordon was at least going to bring it under control, and then now I need to close him
Wouldn't
down.
that have been Partey?
Gordon,
On
it
him?
was on Timber's side. Timber was playing left back. Gordon was on the right side. Right side attack.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Right side
'Cause Gordon
attack.
usually plays on the left. I was just
Gordon
curious.
was whoever was there. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
okay.
sure it came from the right.
Okay.
Isak was in the middle, and center backs didn't do their job. I mean, they were close, but if Isak can get his head on it, then one of the center backs should be able to get their head on it.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to get
Is
you to
that-
call out Saliba.
Saliba called himself out after the match, saying,
Yeah.
"I was bad, and I've got to be better."
Hmm.
So,
Let's hear something else
Dave,
funny.
the actual hilarious account, Paddy Power, they
okay.
they said
The top. These guys, I love this.
I didn't think Arsenal were allowed to drop points unless they could blame it on VAR.
Or red cards.
Yeah.
Or red cards.
I'm sorry. This is
Every
so
once
hard
in a
for
while, it happens.
you. Timber played,
Everyone enjoy this.
Timber played 70 minutes back to back.
Mock
It was-
now.
I saw one that was a picture of the field and was like, Arsenal fans are going crazy. The ball was out of play, but then the line is like,
that's funny. Dave, other than West Ham away in game
Right.
week 13, it's a while here. I'd say so that's 4 of the next 5 that you just say there's nobody here other than Saka, right?
yeah.
It's Saka, and you are like
I still own Havertz, and
so do I. You know who?
And that might come good. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I can't find my. So I don't think it's time to sell him.
Yeah.
If I would have sold him, I should have sold him 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, okay, it's one of those fantasy
Even against
moves
Chelsea,
where it's like,
he's
well,
going to be
hold on.
motivated against Chelsea, right?
Oh yeah,
Isn't he?
I mean,
yeah.
Dave, it's
I love players playing against their ex teams.
the question last week was there anything in the performance that you feel like was bad enough to get rid of him? And I feel like the answer was no. He did score midweek last week, and then he comes out here 0 shots.
0 XG.
Right. There's nothing from anyone. Declan Rice and
I don't think you
Saka
can get an
and
XG if you don't
Trossard
shoot.
and Marino,
It was
2 shots each.
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was a
just the way it is.
bad game. I almost feel like the Newcastle game needs to be almost thrown out. It was that bad.
Okay.
I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it.
I guess what I'm saying is, like,
jerk
already if you had sold, like, I'm saying Gabriel was an easy sell for me before. There are numbers on Reyes, how good, how much, what it looked like they should have been conceding in those early matches, and Reyes was scoring a lot, and now their defense has been a little bit better in underlying numbers, and they're conceding way more. So Rhea is like a non-option. Gabriel, to me, like all the defense is an easy sell for a while. Like they're not just going to all of a sudden tighten up and it's just going to go back to like clean sheets every week again.
Who
Or
knows?
do you think it will?
I don't know. International break might hit at the right time.
Okay.
It won't. I mean, look, Gabriel is 3 points behind Alexander Arnold in fantasy scoring. 4 points behind Ina, who took a 15 to get there this past week.
Yeah.
And 6 points behind Gardeval. So, I mean, look at Arsenal's schedule upcoming. As bad as their defense have been, Gabriel's still there, fantasy-wise. And after Chelsea this week, and if the cold guy, Mr. Freeze, doesn't play against Mr. Freeze, I'm calling him that from now on.
Okay.
Or Frozone. Okay?
And there's lots of cold guys, yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not saying Arsenal's going to clean sheet this weekend, but if Mr. Freeze doesn't play against them, it obviously seems like a lot of the Chelsea offense is generated through the Mr. Freeze. That's probably not a big stretch to say there.
Chris Wood scoring against you in game week 12. West Ham always makes a tough game for you guys for whatever reason, so you probably lose at West Ham. Home to Manchester United for the new manager. The comeback is on for Manchester United, so
the guy just beat City.
You're going to draw or lose that game, and then you're at Fulham, which is no cakewalk either. Probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 from
ex-Arsenal players ready to score on Arsenal.
Smith Rowe revenge game. Yeah, you got a lot of narratives to work through.
Bernd Leno wants to hold a clean sheet. All right, so we'll see. All right, moving on. Is any more slander that needs to happen?
No, that's it.
All right, Aston Villa. Whew, I made it through that segment. Aston Villa.
That's there in the same spot as you are.
What's there? Nothing. Does Alex Moreno still play for them?
I think he does.
I would just say the basically all you can really need to know about Aston Villa is our favorite
Watkins.
Villa fan, FPL villain. After their loss earlier today,
did they lose today?
Yeah.
Just
1-0, right?
FPL villain said,
They playing Girona?
Not good at football at the moment, are we?
Oh.
And had said already, after the loss to Spurs.
They lost to Bruges?
He said
Bruges? Sorry.
No, you're fine.
It wasn't home Bruges, was it? That's a bad loss.
We haven't done anything interesting tactically all season. I'm hoping this is the defeat which prompts Unai Emery into a rethink. So it's coming from they
had chances.
He's not the only Villa fan. I get it.
At Bruges.
But still, it's been somebody who's and I don't think there's anything in the performances. I mean, just look, they've got one win in their last 6 games or something.
It was 1-1 until the 75th minute when Solanke gets a brace within 4 minutes, and then Madison adds on a great free kick in the last kick of the game in injury time.
Yeah,
I know villains, like, you look at it and go 4-1. We just got shellacked.
I think the bigger issue is they couldn't score against Simon Mignolet this today. I mean, old Flappy Bird.
Old Flappy. All right.
But Tyrone Mings today, I mean, you saw it. Did you see what happened? That he
No.
pulled a Gabriel. He touched the ball to set it up when the ball was in play. Inside the box, the ref called it a handball and gave a penalty.
Oh,
so that's how they scored, was on a Tyrone Mings.
Still, they should have created or gotten more chances. It just seemed like from the highlights, and I did watch the highlights later of the Spurs Villa match, that Villa looked like they had a bunch of chances. Jacob Ramsey looked threatening. Morgan Rogers looked threatening. Watkins had chances. McGinn had a shot that was lasered from the outside and just kind of went over the bar. So it felt like that scoreline is very flattering to Spurs.
Yeah, they scored one. It was Rogers on a box out, and that was strength. His goal was just a strong.
Yeah, Rogers was right place, right time, ball bouncing around the box and it fell to him, right?
But Watkins had 2 big chances. Diego Carlos credited with a big chance in the game. So yeah, they definitely. I think that, but that's the issue. Is like the same thing with Watkins. Like Watkins is it's the Trent thing. It's like he's 9. Like there's a reason that he's being sold. Like I think the fixtures looked pretty good, but there's too much value in too many other places, and it's the reason why. Like even now with Havertz, where I'm like, yeah, but what else can I do with that at this point? Like the moves you've had to make, like last week, it's the right thing has seemed like it's be aggressive on certain things, unless it's sell Solanke, which was the wrong aggression to take. But like, I think that's
Who would do that?
Ouch.
Only an idiot. But no, like this feels a little bit different. Like they're just stuck in mud here.
Okay. All right,
so
Villa we can pass on right over to Spurs, as Villa is higher in the table than Spurs.
Barely, but yeah.
Spurs, highest scoring team in the league, scored more goals than anyone else.
Yep.
By a decent margin.
They Son has at least 1 or 2 assists in this match. Threatening gets yanked, wasn't happy about it, and Solanke finally kind of gets on the sheet a little bit. It had been a few games since Solanke had scored, I think, right? Or at least it kind of felt like it.
Yeah, Dave.
Injured there for a while.
It was not
the reason
great.
why you got rid of him.
Absolutely. Mitch Fretton on Twitter.
Mitch.
Mitch Fretton. Tottenham have conceded the 4th fewest goals in the Premier League. They've scored the most goals in the Premier League. They have the 2nd best goal differential in the Premier League. They have the 3rd most wins in the Premier League. They've beaten United, City, and Aston Villa, and they've won 9 of their last 11 games. Why does it still feel like you could still say Spursy on the way they've played? But basically, just all of his things to say, it's not really all that bad for them. But
no, it's
you
not.
look at the table and you just say, well, where are they? They're way down there. And it's like, well, no, look at the numbers.
When you say statistically, like you just said it, you would think Spurs higher in the table than Arsenal. Arsenal, it seems like they can't get a shot on target in the last 3 matches, and yet somehow they're higher in the table by 2 points over Spurs, and Spurs are scoring goals. It seems like they're scoring 3 to 4 a game.
The attackers, every one of them is a coin flip each week, and I think that's the frustrating thing. But
okay,
Solanke,
and that's
for
where
sure,
I wanted to go.
Look, my selling of Solanke was this. So this week he takes 5 shots, which is second only to Haaland on the game week. FPL Raptor had it 2 weeks ago. He said in the 3 games prior, he said it last week, 3 games prior to Aston Villa, Nicholas Jackson had the same number of goals that Dominic Solanke had shots, and that number was 2. Solanke had fewer shots than Nick Jackson had goals in those games prior to Aston Villa. So it wasn't just Solanke, I've got to get rid of him because he's a bad player. It was entirely that, like, it just dried up.
Yeah.
He was dropping deep, and everyone was noticing it. And then all of a sudden, this game, it's like fired back up again.
All right.
They're playing like one-touch passing inside the box, like beautiful to set up the 1 goal.
Can I ask you a question?
But go ahead, yeah.
Solanke in his last 6 matches, 6-6-5, 2-2-16.
It's great.
So he was coming off a 6-6-5. You sold him after the 2-2.
Yeah.
You know the rule. You got to have 3 blanks before
rule
you
of
need
3.
to consider to sell him.
And you have to buy Alex Moreno.
And look, hold on. Can I throw one more dart in
forgot
there?
about that.
Can I throw one
Yeah.
more dart in there? They're playing Ipswich at home this week.
I know. Yep. I was thinking also in terms of I think the team shape overall, where there's no Saka.
Yeah.
I have Haaland. I have no route to Cole Palmer because I don't have enough money to make anyone go from, like, I can't go from Foden or now it's James Maddison, which he kind of saved my week by the end of it, and all things considered. But I don't have the route to get to Saka. I didn't have enough money to go to Saka, couldn't go to Palmer, and definitely can't go to Salah. All of that without selling Haaland. So I think while everyone's bailing on Haaland, and I'm just like, well, the fixtures are still good. I mean, this is still there's still plus matchups for them, or at least you'd think it should be.
Yeah.
And then the fixture swing, just the simple, the 1-to-1 Salah versus Haaland. If you had Salah, you win. If you had Haaland, you drop. That's it. And especially if you captain. It's 18 versus 2 or 4. So, I mean, that's such a huge swing in points.
But we're talking about Solanke, not
and I'm
Haaland,
saying
so.
that, but I'm saying for team makeup, though,
Gotcha.
like, it's Solanke out for a 5.7. Raul Jimenez, who I still like, I feel good about that.
5.8 now.
Overall, like, he's still a buy. I mean, all those cheap guys they're still a buy. I think it's that all now it just looks like a horrible move, obviously, because it was you
couldn't tell the future.
Selling a 16 to bring in a 2. I mean, that's the final nail in the game week 10 coffin. It really was bad.
I'm looking at it this week and I'm like, do I go Havertz to Solanke? Going in against Ipswich after coming off a brace? I don't know. I can't turn my weakest striker, my dead striker. I cannot turn him into Solanke in one move.
Is it the Tottenham kid that never plays?
No, it's the Stewart. It's a Southampton kid.
Can you turn him into Strand Larson? Is what you should be aiming for.
I can easily do that.
Right.
Yeah, I have 2.3 in the bank. Right.
So you can,
I think
you can go to
that was going to be the hole I was going to fill this week.
It's all of those guys that are in that range. I think all of them are good. Are good going forward.
6.8 and under is in my range.
Oh yeah, you got lots of options.
It's the midfield though. Like Brennan Johnson
you get Cunha for
took a couple games off, but he scored again this week. Gets you a bonus point. Goes for an 8. James Maddison gets benched. So I mean, the fact that he was benched and came on for 8 minutes is already like that looked like the final insult of the game week, but no, and then he takes a free kick that's unbelievable. I think he's the kind of guy. Without looking, guess who on Spurs has the most points for the season?
Gotta be
Brennan Johnson.
The answer is James Maddison. James Maddison has 51 points this season for Tottenham Hotspur. 4 more points.
He hasn't played but like 4 games.
That's not true. He's played a lot. This was the fewest minutes that he's played all season. He has 4 more points than Brennan Johnson for the season. So I've never seen.
I was closer than you.
That's true.
Let's just make that point.
He's tied with McNeil.
Never seen someone play 8 minutes and be a top 12 transfer in until this week.
Oh yeah, right. That's weird.
What? Why didn't he play more?
3 goals and 4 assists. It's been coming, and I've seen people kind of saying that. Yeah, like he had kind of dropped off, not necessarily in the performances, but it happened a couple weeks ago. We talked about it. Like he played half. Ange talked about how Sarr gave them a little bit more in the midfield for what I think it was the West Ham game.
Yeah.
Where just said that he was able to run at them in a way that Madison probably couldn't. So in this game, I'm not really sure what the tactic is, but that's the thing. Like Kulishevsky, it was so many people would have said Kulishevsky's my choice here. He gets you 1 boring assist in this game, which had followed out. Like he's gone 11-1, 9-1, 5. There's your last 5 for Kulishevsky. So
still great.
It's very good. Every other week though, you're hating yourself. Where you're like, he got me a 1 again, and Brennan Johnson scored. Son is back and Son does good or whatever. And then this week, like you think you're ahead even of Madison, and Madison comes on and scores a goal, and by the end of the game week has a 6 compared to Kulishevsky's 5.
Yeah.
So like Brennan Johnson, he has the most shots of anyone for Spurs by a bit. So he's taken 30 shots this season. Solanke is second for Tottenham, and he's got 20 shots.
How many shots has Harry Kane taken?
Kane's probably on like 75 or 80, I would guess, at this point.
Yes.
Brennan Johnson, by the way, 30 shots for the season is tied with Mo Salah for 5th. For 5th most shots on the season. The thing with Brennan Johnson is the minutes are so secure.
Yeah.
And honestly, like really, really great form.
You're owning him or no? You
can't
did at
get
one
one.
point.
Not now that Madison is in there.
I mean, you can't beat 7 minutes.
8, 9 minutes. Can we get to 9 next game? No, the question is, like, do you maximize the one matchup? Like, I have a Spur. Like, is one Spur enough? If it's James Madison, is that enough? Or do you feel like you need to get, like, do you need to switch to another person or add another one? Do I need to do the Havertz to Solanke move? And I'm looking through, and I'm way more tempted by Cunha's run of fixtures from now for forever is a way better long-term move, I think.
Yeah.
I would argue Alexander Isak has maybe the best run of any forward, including the Wolves guys, in the next, I don't know,
I think you're crazy
8
on that.
weeks,
Okay.
something like that.
I mean, Liverpool is one of those matches, but okay. Forest is one of those matches. Okay.
Isak's expensive.
Yeah, that's I
I
don't.
feel like he's at.
It's not
in a
far
different price.
away
I mean, he's
from
in a-
Wolves, but
He's in a Solanke,
yeah.
Havertz, Isak
Right.
price bracket.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you're like, I'm not saying that you have to go get him. I'm just saying, like, comparative to what he's capable of doing, like the amount of shots that he's taking, like he's a bigger injury risk. But I'm just saying, like, there are other guys that I think are better this week. Maybe not necessarily, Ipswich is a great matchup. So I'm like, this week is, if you're going for Solanke, whatever, I totally understand it. He's he's one of the top 3 for sure transfers in. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's a tough thing to go into this week with no Spurs, given what they are, what they keep doing. And then who knows, maybe they lose this one 1-0 and it just throws everyone into a spiral going into the international break.
Love to see it. All right, who's next?
If you want to just
Jinx.
rip through the teams below this, just because
I think we can.
I think we
Brighton.
need to.
We're going to go in groups of 3 here. Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth.
After Brighton play Manchester City, the fixture turn for Brighton is amazing.
Okay.
Starting after the international break.
All right.
So if you wanted to jump in early,
I don't own a Brighton player. Don't want to at the moment.
you don't want Welbeck?
Danny Welbeck? Yeah, that's what he said.
No, I'd rather own Cunha or Larson. Or Chris Wood.
I
Okay.
would way rather have. I would.
Would you rather have
take,
Welbeck over Wood?
Yeah, I would take Welbeck over
Okay.
Wood, given the
Matchup.
Fixture.
the
Okay.
Nottingham Forest matchup.
Just, I feel like Danny's always going to get dinged up or hurt. But he's been good this
Yeah.
season.
I would say,
He's been
Dave,
good this season.
just so you know, Danny Welbeck has played of all the minutes that are available to play for the season. Danny Welbeck has played the most of anyone on Brighton. He's played
Is-
844 of
Bro,
a possible
that-
900
He's
That
due.
is
for the season.
That means he's
most
due.
Shocking stat of the season so far. Kudos to him. I really like the player.
I mean, you could probably sit on him for 2 weeks and bring him in for week 13, but
All right.
After the break.
Other than that, nothing, right? No. Nothing realistic.
No, just 'cause
Not
the only
really.
thing you would, your guy Reuter, who did get a return.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about him last week, but he got an assist
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
He didn't do anything against Liverpool. I don't think you're expecting much against Manchester City, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Ruder and Welbeck are definitely the shout
Okay.
from there.
And
Fulham.
and Matoma, I feel like Matoma is always he's a safe
Can be,
choice,
but-
but if you were picking,
Yeah.
if you're not going for a bunch, and if you were picking one, you're picking Welbeck.
Fulham and Bournemouth. I'm not. I mean, look. they're-
Jimenez and
I know
Anthony
Fulham.
Robinson are
Brian,
still
you threw
out
a
there.
stat out there. Fulham's defense is like they're giving up the least amount of shots of anyone all season.
Joachim
Correct.
Anderson is
Yeah.
injured. or no?
Huge comeback against Brentford this week. Obviously, you're ignoring Harry Wilson. That's another. I mean, his 8 minutes off the bench were even better
Magic.
than James Madison's.
Magic.
But
Harry
Anthony,
Wilson, by the way.
that was more about Brentford not getting you anything than it was about Fulham making a huge
If
comeback.
you haven't seen the highlights, anyone listening to this podcast and or
Get
watching,
it done.
if you haven't seen the highlights of the end of the Fulham Wolves game, no, Fulham Palace. What game was that?
was
Fulham Brentford.
Fulham Brentford.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen, all that mattered was Fulham in this match. If you haven't seen the end of it and Harry Wilson's 2 injury time goals, that guy will live in Fulham lore forever. That it was unreal, and the place went bananas. And I've never seen a play. I've never seen Fulham look so lively.
It was more about the Flecken, all of the Flecken and Brentford defense. If whoever had someone from, if you had a Brentford defender
Giving up clean sheets.
giving up that Flecken in that game went from like a 12 to a 3 in the last. Bless
Brutal.
you.
Yeah,
in those
4 or 5
last 7 minutes or
Yep.
whatever. But all of that to say that Fulham's still good. Raul's going to get
Yes.
subbed a little bit early. He didn't get anything in this match. Again, like really good. And I would say still like it's Palace, Wolves, Spurs, Brighton. You still get the next 4 games, which I think are really plus attacking matchups for them.
Okay.
Arsenal and Liverpool after that, but you can make a decision in game week 15
All right.
how you want to, if you want to move those guys on.
Bournemouth. Anyone more other than Semenyo?
Not really.
Evan Nielsen. Another.
I mentioned
Would
him last
you
week
own
as
him?
well.
Again, you're not.
Says so
I
many
said it
things.
last week. You're not
You
buying
did.
Evan Nielsen,
You
but
did.
and
You
then
probably should have.
and then he scored this week.
Okay, Evan Nielsen's last 5
Evanescence.
matches, 9-2, 5-8-7.
Yeah,
He's a 5-9.
yeah. He's an
That's
option.
wild.
It's not he's not a not option. And
Francisco Evan Nielsen de Lima Barbosa.
Are people running to him right now or no?
No, they're going to Semenyo.
He's under the radar.
They're going to Semenyo because of the fixtures after the international break. If you want to get on Bournemouth now and take your chances, they're at Brentford, so that I
This
take
week.
that back.
Fine.
That's a
But
great.
you
matchup.
I was going to say, you would say that's a green matchup, even
It's
though
an
it's showing up
extremely
as gray. Home Brighton, at Wolves, at Spurs, Ipswich, West Ham. That's not bad.
And then Manchester United, Palace, Fulham. I like again. This is a
Yeah.
Bournemouth team who's like
Inspired.
they're playing
great.
They're playing really well. The guy who had a pretty good return this week was Kirkes.
I was waiting for you to say that. That seems to be pretty popular too.
But I'm not. I would say don't. I'm saying I wouldn't do that, and the reason why. This is the first 2 returns he's had this season, and it was 2 assists. The pros for him are that he's basically nailed. So he's 62 minutes or more in every game so far. The schedule's really green. But the con, I would just say, Bournemouth is just an average defense. Like they're not a defense that's like. They're not necessarily like a target defense, but they are just middling. They're 10th for shots allowed per game. They're 13th for XG allowed. They're 12th. They've conceded 12 goals, which is 6th fewest, but they just have 1 clean sheet. Do you remember when the clean sheet was? What was the clean sheet that Bournemouth had?
I
Just
don't
the
think it
one
happened
clean sheet this season.
this season.
Who was that?
Interesting.
Arsenal. It was
Oh,
against
no way.
Arsenal.
By the way, they
That's wild.
beat Arsenal and City in back-to-back matches.
I'm saying that they are not a defense where you're like, oh, that scares you. You don't want your guys going to Bournemouth or playing against them or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying Kirkes is a really good player. It's just that that's not a guy. The guy is Semenyo.
Semenyo.
If you want to go to him, I mean, people are buying him.
They
What is
should
he,
already
You still
be on
own
him.
Tavernier?
I do.
All right, I am blown away by this Semenyo ownership percentage because I feel like
Okay.
I've owned him most of the season.
It's pretty-
8.6.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
That's not right.
That's
I mean, it
28
is, but-
point. That's 28 point.
No, it's not.
8.6.
All right, let's talk about the next 2, and then we'll get to the number 3.
I just want to tell you for Semenyo, he scores the goal this week, gets you the 3 bonus points, so he goes for a 10. So that's amazing if you know, to have that. It's his first return since game week 6. So
Yes.
totally not. I don't blame anyone for not. Just so perfect that he scores
He's
against
my
City
lowest priced midfielder, and so there was no need to move him
after
around.
blanking against Leicester, Arsenal, and Aston Villa.
Correct.
Perfect. Just as a
He
reminder,
didn't play for you, right? He was on the bench.
No, against Arsenal.
against City,
You
No, I played him.
did. Okay.
Yeah.
he is number 1 of all midfielders for shots this season. He's attempted 43 shots for the season. Only Erling Haaland has attempted more shots than Antoine Semenyo for the season.
How many of those are in the box?
So that's the thing.
Like 0.
Haaland is most of his shots in the box. Semenyo is less, but only 10 shots on target for Semenyo. That's the one thing where you're
He's
like...
a volume guy.
Yeah.
He's a volume guy.
Which is...
Yeah, I mean...
Travis,
I love watching him play.
He's a big
but
dude.
the guy just blasts everything into the stands behind the goal.
He reminds me of Yaya Toure at times when
very different players. That's
huge
interesting.
dude that he looks so good against City.
Toure was lanky. Semenyo is like a muscle machine.
Later life, Yaya was a little thicker.
It is worth reminding too. Semenyo is one of the relevant, I'd say, big transfer players in who's on 4 yellow cards. So that's another factor for him. Ryan Aït-Nouri is in that category too.
Yeah.
But he is on 4 yellows, so that is worth kind of remembering.
Moving on.
Newcastle,
Brentford, and Manchester United.
Let's sit on United because Brian's got a lot of stuff with United, but Newcastle and Brentford.
Other than Mbeumo, you need to own Mbeumo. It feels like everyone does.
Brentford
Vissa continues to be.
Everyone is going to keep having Flecken in their team and believing he's going to do something for them. And even this week, where you're 6 minutes away from actually getting something from him, and it's terrible. The Brentford defense is not good. I do not understand. It's the same thing. It's the reason why I said forever ago, it's the same with the Villa defense, where it's like, what are you expecting to get from Ezri Konsa? Like, why would you have him and expect that it's going to just be really good as if they're some sort of good defense? They're not. They have proven over and over again that they're not going to do it. Brentford is worse than Villa is. So, I wouldn't understand why you do that. Everything is about Mbeumo because of penalties and because the matchups. I think this is another one. Like, your Bournemouth, your Everton, Leicester, at Villa, and then Newcastle and Chelsea, whatever, those are that's not great, but those aren't the worst ever.
Which team you catch.
Right. And then Forest and Brighton and Arsenal after that. So really definitely the next 4. That's one where if you were going to buy somebody, I think Wissa is still despite not getting anything, but Mbeumo didn't get anything this week. Brentford was just not, they were just not great in this match in particular, but were minutes away from their first clean sheet in forever, and they didn't get it. So I still think Wissa, if you wanted to go to Wissa, I think that's still a viable forward option. Just, you have a lot of choices still.
Newcastle, still Isak, and that's it. I sold Gordon this week. Probably shouldn't have.
I understand why you did, because he was already an injury risk.
Yeah, he was having some trouble.
He was, and then he played anyway. Isak I think is still good. Lewis Hall is the one who I was going to say kind of has played himself back into.
Yeah, he did.
Into necessity. Isak, since he's played the last 3, I think with him it's more about the volume that he's gotten since he's come back. So I think that's where he scored back to back. So this isn't it's not like if you bought him, you're there's real form behind it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Back to back games. He started the last 3 in the three games since he's come back and played 90 minutes in each match. Second only to Haaland for shots. He's got 8 shots on target, which is most of any forward since in the last 3 games.
Okay.
9 shots in the box, 5 big chances, 21 touches in the opposition box. He is second to Haaland in everything, and he is out shooting him for shots on target. So
which isn't awesome given that Haaland is in a dip, right?
Well, in score in actual putting goals in
Returns.
the net, but that Haaland is ahead of him is only ahead of Isak,
doing all the things, but not converting. Yeah,
and I would say look, it's Nottingham Forest. We are look. I'm not going to made the case for Nottingham Forest defense already, but the matchups are still after that. I think are very good for them.
All right, you want to talk about United? I think we need to transition to United. We're running out of time here.
No, we are definitely. I was going to say Lewis Hall. If you wanted to go for a Newcastle defender, he's the guy, and I would say 4.3. He was already trendy pick earlier in the season. I did own Lewis Hall, by the way,
Which I knew, and that was a trendy pick early on, but it very quickly became.
Yeah, he was getting benched, but now it looks like he's played himself back into nailedness. He's played 88 or 90 minutes in the last 5 games, 2 clean sheets, got an assist in the last 5 games too. So he's on 20 points. Like, it's not terrible for a guy that's 4.3. He shoots 0, but he's created 9 chances in the last 5 games, which is second only to Leif Davis. So Leif Davis is on another stratosphere of chance creation. But Lewis Hall, 9 chances created, 1 big chance. Like, the stat that we've pulled before, which I always think is really interesting, he's not passing, like, not a ton of passes in the opposition half or in the final third, but he's tied for 4th of all defenders in the last 5 game weeks for penalty area entries. So, like, he's making that final pass into the penalty area 4th most of any defender. So I feel like that's where I want the defender. You know what I mean? Like, Trent is nowhere near the box, by the way. Like, we didn't even really talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, he's barely ever getting that close.
Yeah,
Lewis Hall.
He's been on the sideline very often.
Yeah. So
All right.
I think price outweighs schedule too. So you feel way better about benching 4.3 than you do
Agree.
about benching 5.0 or 5.5 or anybody above that.
Agree.
So anyway,
all right, that
plug
gets
for Lewis
us
Hall.
to 13th in the table, Manchester United. Brian, they have a new manager coming in.
Yeah, do you care?
Yeah.
I think
I
so,
do.
actually.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
so. This is a guy who has been doing amazing things at Sporting. He's got a good team at Sporting, one that just beat Manchester City, the dreaded noisy neighbors, and 4-1 yesterday, right?
It's a great way to leave. I mean, I think he's got one more match potentially. They gave him a plaque. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
I think that's his last match.
I think you might be right.
So I don't know
He
if
starts
he's
on
going to be
Monday.
on the sideline this. No, it won't be this weekend. It'll
Monday
be
is what they said.
Ruud van Nistelrooy will be there this weekend, and then he comes in the next week. I just think new manager bump, Brian, is that going to happen with United players?
I think Anthony's going to score a hat trick in his first
I
match
think this
back.
can only mean good things for Marcus Rashford
I don't know about that. I want it to mean
and Bruno. I think
probably
this will
more
mean
than
good
So-
things for Bruno.
They know they're getting a new manager. Since they fired Ten Hag, they've smashed some Leicester children in the EFL Cup.
Oh boy.
They managed a draw
terrible.
against red hot Chelsea,
Okay.
which I guess it's a positive result. I mean, it could have been way worse. And now the reason why I feel like everyone is forcing the discussion about them is because they're playing Leicester, Ipswich, and Everton in the next 3 games.
It's a great time.
Leicester
for a new
home,
manager to come in.
Ipswich away, Everton
Yeah.
home. Is that good enough by itself? I mean, that's the first question. I mean, the schedule, if you're going to look at the schedule,
Yeah,
this is as
probably.
good as it gets as far as schedule goes. Is it worth it knowing, though, after those 3, they're away to Arsenal, home to Nottingham Forest, and then at Manchester City?
I just need, before I move on any United player, I
Yeah.
just need to see it first.
Well, Dave,
I'm gonna be coming from the Show Me State, Missouri.
we could go through all the numbers forever on Bruno Fernandes. He finally did score this week. He got a
Saw
penalty. 3 bonus points. He goes double digits this week. He's only 7.7%. I am a little surprised.
People
Why?
don't like-
he hasn't
people
done anything.
No, I know he hasn't done
Yeah,
almost.
no
he's
one
not
wants to
done
think about his
anything.
face.
That's true.
I mean, and he's 8'2".
If Cole Palmer misses,
That's
if
a
we
lot.
get any confirmation of anything, which I doubt you will, if you found out that Cole Palmer was going to miss, I have a
Yeah.
feeling there'd be a lot more interest in him going into the weekend.
You're not wrong. It's just it's a hard sell with so many unknowns.
He's for midfielders for the season. He's third for shots. He somehow only has 6 shots on target. That's more pathetic than Semenya.
It's all desperation, though. All these shots seem like desperation.
But yeah, I think what I was going to say, I think it kind of tells
Good
you.
point, Travis. I agree.
Kind of tells you everything. Well, but they have been in desperation. The whole
You're right.
season's been pathetic. So
That's why I don't want
that's what I'm saying.
anyone on the team.
But I'm saying now
the
you're.
moment.
But you're saying that the new manager is very
Yes.
good and should matter.
But the thing about it, the new manager bump is not based on new ideas that are coming in that are magically making them better. The new manager bump is 100% predicated on players trying to prove themselves to the new manager, and so they find a different gear. They find motivation that says, I'm going to show him that I'm his guy. Right? It's not about the ideas that they bring in. There's no tactics or strategy that they're taking on board within the first couple days or weeks with that manager. It has everything to do with them not caring because the guy that they're playing for sucks, to them absolutely caring because the guy that just got brought in has free reign to get rid of them if he wants to, because there is no history. There is no expectations. They have to set the new bar. And for United especially, they're playing like a bunch of guys that don't want to play they don't want to be on the pitch, right?
I agree.
And
they
so
keep saying
I
that's not
absolutely
true. That's
think
the thing.
that's going to
I'll
happen.
say that,
Right.
but they're showing it. I mean, yeah,
I absolutely
they did
think
play
that they
better.
show up.
They did play better against Chelsea.
They did. They
Right,
did.
that's what I'm saying. So Bruno Fernandes, he's a season removed. I think the weirdest stat for him this season, he's got 1 goal, which was this penalty kick. He's had 6 big chances. We talked about it last week. That was a FPL Raptor thing about just because they it's not about getting the chances, it's converting them. So
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
a good option just because the new manager's coming in. They've had the chances, they're just not putting them away. The surprising thing for Bruno is that he's created 15 chances this season, which is 12th. He's kind of far down on the list for midfielders. Last season, he was by far the number 1 chance creator in midfield. He had 112 chances created last season.
Wow.
Pascal Gross was second with 102.
That's weird.
That's
So
weird.
I'm saying it's weird because then he's created 7 big chances, which is third best. So it's the weirdest thing with him to have a guy who's so consistently underachieves his numbers, but also you can't take away the fact that he is the penalty taker. He finally did get one. They've avoided that all season. He finally gets one against Chelsea and puts it away. And now all of a sudden, schedule is the greenest it can possibly be. And it's do I want Bruno Fernandes now? And I think everyone's kind of asking that question. He's 6th for transfers in, 5th for most transfers in.
I think he's a little expensive.
I just need to see it first.
And he
I
hasn't done
like
enough,
I like
yeah.
what you just proposed as a fantasy own if you're buying him.
Yeah,
Those
the
are
opportunity
encouraging
is
numbers.
there, right? Yeah.
If you want to get on, you said it before. If you want to get on before it gets hot. You can do it now.
He's
He's only got a couple of weeks.
He's less owned than Garnacho, and the reason why,
It's
it's
Garnacho's
the
Just
money.
way cheaper. Yeah.
6.3. So no, it is Garnacho's 5th most in, Bruno's 6th. No return for Garnacho this week, but he shot a lot, but he's second to Bruno on the team for shots. But he's played 170 minutes less than Bruno.
Okay.
So 29 shots for Garnacho, 32 for Bruno Fernandes.
I think Garnacho's also only slightly less than Fernandes for tears shed on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
The old tears
both
shed
are
stat.
in a different tier than the rest of the league right now as well.
All right.
Also underachieving. 12 shots on target for Garnacho, which by the way is double the next most of anyone. So again,
Really?
obviously the most effective of all of the
Yeah.
midfielders and players. 8 big chances for Garnacho on the season, which is number 1. So it's more. And similar though, only 2 goals. So he's had 8 big chances to score, has scored twice. So
Wasteful.
Hence
yet
the
another
tiers.
one, right?
Wasteful.
Yeah.
and he's decent, like respectable when it comes to creating for other players.
All right.
Rashford, I mean, that's the one where could he become an option again? Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even consider him even with a new manager if his name was anything other than Marcus Rashford. He is on par with, like, on stats, he's like on par with Thomas Soucek, Wilfred Ndidi, Thomas Partey, Keane Lewis Potter. Like, these, like, almost all of his statistics, he is in the like 20 to 40 range on almost everything. Just, is he still good? Has he lost a step? I'm not sure. He's had some moments where it looks like he maybe, he could kind of regain what he had before, but it's him and Højlund are the two where you're like, if you're buying them, you're buying them because they're a differential and on name value.
Yeah.
Or schedule only. Like, you're just doing it because, a guy from Manchester United has good schedule. That's it. So,
All right. I love it.
you have Onana.
I do have Onana, and I hope that things improve a little bit.
This
You
is
guys made fun of me when I had him. So much so that I gave into peer pressure and I sold him immediately.
I brought him back
Lead
in my
lead up to
Nothing
the
Burger
season.
transfers 2 weeks ago, and it's got me
Should've
nothing.
stayed with him.
Which is whatever. It's fine.
Onana, Mazraoui, Diogo Dallo.
Dallo. If I was to
Dallo.
own anyone in the defense, it'd be Dallo.
All of those
Dallo
guys
just
are
eye test more than anything, though. He doesn't actually get points.
All right.
fine. It's just it's the defense and goalkeeper. I mean, those are always like those
Yeah.
are low priority.
Who are you
transfers.
captaining this week, Brian? You're still a Holland owner.
I am still a Holland owner. I don't know. It might be him.
It's Moreno.
At this
It's
point,
Moreno.
other than the set it and forget it captainers, I might do it.
Okay. I am in the set it, forget it category. I am captaining Mr. Mo Salah home to Villa because I'm a scaredy cat. I have another fun. I made it on the pod transfer.
Just now?
I got rid of Stewart. My deadweight striker Stewart.
You really liked him.
I got rid of him, and I could have gone in multiple places, but I like the fact that I
Strand
could
Larson.
save a
You
little
went
bit of
Strand
money.
Larson, didn't you?
I went with the Myrtle Beach Grand Strand Larson. Anyone who's been there knows what I'm talking about. And it's not an adult club. It's they refer to the Myrtle Beach area as the Grand
Our
Strand.
listeners could be forgiven for thinking
Right.
that you would be naming
For
an
sure.
adult
I
club.
don't want to be
You're
doing
always
that.
going to them and talking about them.
Oh, Lord.
This is a middle
All right.
school volleyball, golf,
So-
and adult clubs.
So listen, Strand Larson and the mighty Wolves, bottom of the table Wolves, probably shouldn't be bottom of the table,
Yeah.
and I don't think they'll be there for long. Remember, the beginning of the Wolves
Yeah.
season was brutal.
Rough.
They're home Southampton this week.
Mm-hmm.
Who are coming off of a big
What
win.
a fun captain that would
Big
be,
win.
Brian. Another fun captain, Havertz at Chelsea. Fun captain. But I can't.
That's
What are you doing?
Embuemo, fun captain, home Bournemouth.
Who
But
are
I'm
you going with?
Chicken
Make the
pants.
call. Make the call.
I'm going with Mo.
Mo Salah home to Villa. I am either going to leave Brighton away on Holland, or
You don't have Salah and Holland, do you?
I do.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Bowen at home to Everton.
Ooh, Everton's going to get a clean sheet this week.
I
doubt it.
doubt it.
I know. Probably.
Let's talk about it.
I would
You
not- I
I have
would
the bet
not.
document up right here if you're ready. If you're ready to talk about it. I legitimately think Bowen at home to
Okay.
Everton is not
That's
a
a
bad
fun
pick.
captain.
I moved from Gordon to Bowen and regretted it this last week, but mostly because again their fixtures are looking good, and honestly, I think their manager is going to be under a significant amount of pressure and start pulling some rabbits out of hats.
Rabbits out of hats. All right. Very good. Pod update this week. Highest score in the FPL America Podcast League. Destiny is coming. I need to back that up so I can see who that is. Oh, gosh. Oh, I lost it. Finding it. This is great theater here. Okay.
Kizimu
Kizamu, League
Shoots,
Kizamu. Well, we don't give the last
Suda-
names. We don't give the
okay.
last names. And I don't even know how you say that. Destiny is coming. Hey, great week. 73. 73 this week.
Pretty good.
That's amazing.
That's-
Sells Gardeval, Aitonori, Udagi, Johnson and Buemo, Captain Sala, Palmer, Raul, Wood, and then also had Solanke with the vice captain. So Johnson and Solanke really bringing Destiny is coming through this week in the podcast league. Running out the top 5 of the podcast league. League Dan Ciaumazio. He seems like he's been hanging around the top for a while, building his lead with 640 total. Bandwagon Traders League John in second with a 613. Connor High in third place.
Wow.
I wasn't supposed to say his last name. Sorry, Connor. I was shocked when I saw it. The Tractor Boys are back with a 612. Third
Wow.
place in the podcast league. Friend of ours. I knew he was in the league. That's the first time I've seen his name. That's why I said it. Sorry about that, League Connor. Fourth place, Glenn, SOLFC, 609. And League Gary Differential Apples, 606. And honorable mention, League Billy, in our mini league, tops in our mini league with also with a 606, although it's got him in 6th place instead of 5th. So there is that. All right, so that's the league rundown. Gentlemen, we are right up against our time block. If we haven't gone over, this has been a great pod. I think we've covered a lot of great things, learned a lot of great things. I did on the pod transfer, which I know Brian always appreciates.
That's my favorite thing you do.
All right, for the FPL America podcast, let's go Arsenal this weekend. This is David Smith. Until next time.